Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to VU Sports Wired. I'm Jackson Martin. Alongside me is Peter Nygaard. We have a lot to get to in the world of Vanderbilt sports today, so let's get to it. First off, we're going to talk about the loss to Kentucky this Saturday. Your Doors blew a halftime lead against the number one team in the country. But there's a big game tonight with a chance for redemption for the Commodores as number 13 Florida comes to town. Then we're going to talk about our feelings on the team so far and how they're going to fare in the SEC and the NCAA tournaments. After that, we're going to move to the baseball diamond where your Commodores got swept again this weekend by a Pac-12 team, dropping 3 games to Oregon. We're also going to talk about whether they can get things back on track and get back to the NCAA tournament. After that, we're going to take a walk around the Vanderbilt bubble. So, let's get to it. Starting off with that Kentucky game, Commodores lose 83-74, but you got to say an impressive performance from Vanderbilt, sticking with the number one team in the country the entire game.
Well, you know, you hate to be moral victory you, and
Vanderbilt's developed a little bit of reputation there in the but we can't go into a game on the road at Kentucky where Jonathan Powers never lost a game there against the number one prospect in the nation and get upset about playing with a loss like that.
Right. They competed hard down the stretch. Both teams traded blows. Kentucky had the lead. Vanderbilt took the lead for a while.
Just didn't execute down the stretch. I mean, the guys they had in there,
Jeff Festus,
they were playing really well. They were going toe-to-toe with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, with Anthony Davis, and really producing.
But when push came to shove, Kentucky just had a little bit more, and that's what put them over the top.
Well, I think it's tough to say. In fact, I would argue that this team did not fail to execute down a stretch except for free throws, where the Commodores shot just 65% the entire game. But this is a Kentucky team that is so talented that I think we've established the only way you can really beat them is either to get Anthony Davis to foul out or to have them miss their shots. Neither of those things happened. Davis actually went 10 for 11 from the field, scored 28 points, which is his career best, to go along with 11 rebounds and 6 blocks, and he altered countless other shots during that game. But really, a really good game all around from this Vanderbilt team.
Well, the one thing that just watching the game that I have to come back to with Anthony Davis is that one possession where the shot clock was winding down, Kentucky had an out-of-bounds play with a couple seconds left on it, and they just lobbed it down low to Davis, and he hit it. And then moving back down to about a minute left in the game, Davis had a long jumper and just iced it. He's a player that if you give him that space, he's going to make those shots. And he did. That's what did them in. I mean, Vanderbilt only missed 8 free throws in the entire game. 6 of them were in a really crucial stretch where if they had hit all of those, they would have had a 1-point lead and instead trailed by 5. But, you know, just when you have a guy like Anthony Davis, you can guard everyone else on the court and you can do your best to guard him, and sometimes he'll just go off. And today was one of those days.
Right, and we saw in the second half the Commodores failed to attack the rim as much because certainly Davis's shot blocking ability, like I said, he wound up with 6 blocks in the game. Almost all of those were in the second half. The Commodores began to settle for contested jump shots, and that's really when the lead turned over to really, it was Kentucky's game at that point, and the Doors were just trying to play catch-up. Almost had it a couple of times. John Jenkins had an opportunity to shoot 2 free throws to tie the game up at 66, went 1 for 2. We had a stretch in the game where the Commodores only missed 8 free throws all game, missed 6 within a short stretch where the team was down by either 5 or 7 the entire time, and those made free throws certainly would have played a difference in a game that was decided by 9 points, but was in reality much closer.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that you can take away from this game is the second unit did play pretty well. I mean, Dejon Parker had a really solid game. They're not a unit that Vanderbilt's looking, that Coach Kevin Stallings is looking to score and add points, but 3 assists, no turnovers, some good minutes out of Steve Changang. Dejon Parker did a fantastic job on Teague. And it's just one of these games where everything didn't come together for a win, but they're starting to come together down the stretch for what may lead to wins. I looked on Ken Palm today, which is our cited source on when we go on the radio, on Pomeroy.com. Vanderbilt was 15th in the nation in offensive efficiency and 53rd in defensive efficiency, and these are numbers that have just gone up and up as the season's gone on. And a tough SEC this year, that's something that's really going to stand out when it's time for the tournament. When they're facing teams unlike Florida, unlike Kentucky, that they can actually get those wins instead of just moral victories.
Right, and as we look forward tonight, obviously a huge game against Florida in Memorial Gymnasium as the number 13 Gators come into town. This is a game that also could determine the second seed in the SEC tournament, which is coming up next week. The Commodores obviously lost to Florida earlier this year, but that was in the O-Dome, where Florida has been very, very good this year. And also the Gators coming off a loss to a Georgia team that is just quite frankly not very good, but did play Vanderbilt tough twice. But coming off that loss, that loss, we're going to see how this Florida team reacts.
Well, this is also a Vanderbilt team that's going to be nowhere near short of any motivation. After their last home game, Lance Goulbourne was outspoken in how much these last couple games at home mean to them. They even said, Lance said that he just can't believe that's all coming to an end. This is going to be their last home game. They'll get to play maybe in Nashville if they play their way into the tournament with that 4 seed, but this is going to be their last one in front of a Vanderbilt crowd at Memorial Gym. And it's really going to be an emotional game. It's a big game. Florida always plays tough in the gym. Shots are going to be going in tonight. Both teams shoot the three-pointer very, very well. Yep. So it's just a game that's going to really come down to, honestly, who wants it more. And it could have huge dividends for this Vanderbilt team because this is a team that can get hot. They can play well in a tournament setting. We saw earlier this year in the Legends Classic. They came away with the win there. If they can get the 2 seed, that may be enough that gets them into the finals where they can at least do some damage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we look forward, especially to that SEC tournament, Commodores hanging on to the number 3 seed right now. And really, as long as you hold on to the 2 or the 3 here, that's what we want to see out of Vanderbilt. Because then the likely opponent in the semifinals is Florida. However, the Doors, if they drop down to the 4th seed, you got to play Kentucky in the semifinals. And as well as this team has played Kentucky twice this year, that is just not a team that you want to see any sooner than you have to. Commodores hold a 1-game advantage over both Alabama and Tennessee for the 4 seed right now and own tiebreakers over both teams. But a loss in this game puts the Commodores in jeopardy of falling to Tennessee in that last game and losing that number 3 spot.
Well, I think what's important is that you can't go for any gimmies. You have to go into the tournament assuming that, yes, you're going to play Kentucky. The Giant is going to be there at the end of it. And, maybe they get lucky and somebody knocks Kentucky off. But maybe they're the ones who have to knock Kentucky off. Because at the end of the day, it's either Kentucky or it's the field. And Vanderbilt's part of that field. So every team's going to be giving Kentucky their best shot every night, trying to take them down. Maybe it'll be Vanderbilt in the semis. Maybe it'll be Vanderbilt in the finals. Maybe it'll be someone else entirely. Or maybe Kentucky just cakewalks the entire thing. It's like back in 2001 when Duke had the Duke Invitational. Everyone thought they'd just steamroll through the NCAA tournament, and they didn't even end up winning it all. So You never know with a team like this. Yep. On any given night, someone can get hot, and that could be what does Kentucky in.
Absolutely. And as the Commodores look even past that to the NCAA tournament and how they can improve their seeding from now until then, obviously the best way to do so would be to just win out. But a win over Florida is going to speak volumes about this Vanderbilt team and could certainly kick them up into almost a definite 6 seed, certainly no lower than a 7 seed, I would argue. But a big run in the SEC tournament and beating Kentucky could move this team up to a 5 seed, maybe a 4 seed. I don't want to get too optimistic about it. But you right now are looking at a 5 or a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament, which would match the Commodores up against a 3 seed or a 4 seed in the second round. And the way this team is playing, I certainly think that they could beat a team like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, anything lower than a 6, and they're asking for trouble, but I don't think that you're going to see Vanderbilt drop any lower than 6. What would be nice if they could get a 4 seed or higher, even if they just hang on to that 4 seed, that could be enough that will get them the Nashville bid, or even one up in Columbus or Louisville. That's close enough that Vanderbilt fans can actually make the trip. Because Vanderbilt doesn't really travel well. I mean, you hate to say it, but
we don't travel well to our own stadiums.
Exactly, but we really don't travel well when you get outside of that. Yeah. So if they can keep it close, that could be a huge boost of confidence for this team because they've had their troubles playing away from home. Hostile environments are going to be hostile environments, and especially if you have a 4 or 5 seed, teams are going to be coming in. First round, you're going to see the fans turn against you. We saw it last year in Denver. The Louisville fans and the Morehead State fans, they're rooting for Richmond. So, you just want to get as many good karma things as possible going in your direction, and the way to do that is just win some games.
Absolutely. Now, a team at Vanderbilt that has not been able to win games so far is the baseball team. Your Diamond Doors, we'll workshop that one. But your baseball team 1-6 right now, swept by both Stanford and Oregon. The lone victory coming against Oakland. That's Oakland of Michigan, not California. But a really poor start for a team that started off the season as the preseason number 10 team.
Well, these things take time. Last year, Vanderbilt graduated and had drafted a class that ranked as the SEC's most draft picks in the MLB draft. And they had a class that came in as the #1 overall recruiting class. But just these things take time. I mean, got a lot of young players, got a lot of players who aren't used to the system. You got to have faith in Coach Tim Corbin to turn things around. He's been there before. He's had some teams that weren't, necessarily up to snuff, and it's just going to take some time.
Yeah.
It's, you can't place all stock in 7 games, especially against Stanford. Oregon is tough to get swept by, but it's gonna get there.
But taking a look at that picture that was just on the screen, those are some sweet socks. I would be hard pressed to beat a team wearing those, anyways. On a serious note, though, there's a couple things I think we can take away from these first 2 weekend series. The first is that this is a gigantically talented Vanderbilt team, and what you've seen through the first 2 series is that it's not other teams overwhelming the Commodores. The Commodores are making mistakes. A lot of errors in these first 2 series, a lot of hit batsmen, a lot of walks, and from a young team, that's almost to be expected. But I think it's encouraging to see that the reasons why we're losing games right now are correctable mistakes. And as the Baseball America writer who does the rankings said, he said, I didn't put Vanderbilt as my preseason number 10 team because I think they're the 10th best team in the country right now. I put them there because I think at the end of the season they're going to be the 10th best team. So maybe this is something we got ourselves a little too hyped up about this team because they're very young. And probably we should have seen a stumble out of the gate coming. But do we think this team can really turn it around and get back to where we thought they could be?
Well, the one thing that's been really encouraging is that despite a lack of consistency in the hitting, 2 guys who have really stepped it up, Anthony Gomez, who had a lot of success when he was, he's had his troubles with swinging at the first pitch, but he had a lot of success last year, and he's really just built on it. He's had a hit in every single game. He's the only Commodore player who's had that so far. And Mike Yastrzemski's put together a couple multi-hit games. Everyone else, there's been decent hitting, but as a whole, the Commodore offense hasn't really jump-started. They're only averaging about 4 runs per game, had double digits against Oakland, so that really drives up the total. But for how much they're giving up defensively, they really need a little bit more consistency. So if they can build off the success of Gomez and Yastrzemski, that would really help get things going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we hope that the team does get things going and get it turned around. But for now, let's look around the bubble. Not a lot going on the Vanderbilt campus. But starting on Thursday, there is the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament, where your Commodores have the number 7 seed, and they will be playing Mississippi State Thursday at 2:30 p.m. This is a Commodore team that is probably better than a 7 seed overall, but had a lot of struggles in SEC play. They've spent time ranked in the top 25, but we'll see what they can do with a tough tournament field that includes top 10 teams in Kentucky and Tennessee. So I guess that's it for us today. So for Peter Nygaard, I'm Jackson Martin. You've been watching VU Sports Wired, and we'll see you next time.